Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into something really fascinating, a concept from our sources that might just shift how you think about making a difference.
hmm
We're exploring this idea called Buddha's never brandish.
Right. And just to be clear right off the bat, this isn't really about religion in the way you might first think.
Exactly. It's more about a profound idea about impact, about presence, how real influence actually works.
Yeah, what it really
Wow.
means to have an effect.
And the core argument here is pretty striking, isn't it? The source material says, true Buddha nature. It's not loud. It doesn't show off.
Quite the opposite. It often works invisibly, in the everyday stuff, and it actively pushes back against what the author calls the narcissism of performative virtue.
Performative virtue.
Wow.
So we're talking about a kind of invisible holiness, like real grace operating undercover.
That's the idea. It challenges our modern habit of needing to broadcast every good thing we do.
Okay, so what's our mission then for this deep dive?
Well, our mission is really to unpack this surprising link the author makes. It's between the quiet discipline of concealed carry
Right.
and this idea of spiritual humility. We're going to look at what it really means to serve versus just being seen served.
Seen the serving. Yeah.
And maybe explore why, as the source suggests, the folks shouting loudest about virtue might be the least likely to actually, do the quiet work.
Okay, let's get into that.
Yeah.
The source anchors this whole thing with a really powerful analogy from the author's own life, learning to carry a concealed weapon.
Yeah, that personal experience.
And the first thing they learned, this really strict pledge, what was that about?
Oh, it's crucial. The pledge is basically you don't talk about it, you don't show it off,
Yeah.
and you absolutely do not posture with it ever.
So the permit isn't like a personality trait.
Not at all. It's a responsibility, a heavy one. And it's meant to be quiet. You're sworn to invisibility, essentially, until that one moment, that absolute last resort where it might be needed. Discretion is the entire point.
And the author's own practice really underlines this. They talk about carrying daily for 5 years. Different guns, Keltec, Glock.
Mm-hmm. Sea camp, car.
Mm-hmm. All inside the waistband.
Right. Never printing, never showing. But the key thing, in 5 years, the weapon was never drawn. What's the significance of not drawing it?
That's the absolute core of the analogy. The fact it was never drawn is the success. It is the point.
Okay.
It means the real preparedness, the real power, maybe, lies in the potential, the readiness, and crucially, the restraint, not in the display.
Ah, okay. So how does that connect to Buddha nature?
Well, the author draws a direct line. They call Buddha nature a kind of spiritual concealed carry.
Spiritual concealed carry. Interesting.
Yeah, think about it. You don't flash your enlightenment like a badge, right? Or your wokeness or inner peace or whatever you want to call it.
Why not?
Because the second you make a show of it, the second you brandish it, you've kind of already failed the test.
True miracles, the source says, don't glow for attention. They sort of hum quietly. The sacred doesn't need to shout. It just sits there. It's about being present, being impactful, without needing the applause.
That really turns the typical image of a Buddha on its head, doesn't it? If the point isn't to brandish, then who are the real Buddhas around us, according to the source?
It totally reframes it. The source points to people like the person mopping floors late at night in an empty school,
Okay.
or someone gently rocking a dying person in a nursing home, or those amazing first-grade teachers. The author actually names Mrs. Kai and Mrs. Sakai, who teach with such deep love, it literally changes a kid's life trajectory.
Wow. So it's the quiet, unassuming people just doing things.
Exactly. And the key is they don't lead with hashtags about their service. They don't have bios bragging about their impact.
Right. No self-congratulation.
None. They just, as the author puts it, carry their light where it's needed without ever needing you to see it. The impact is the focus, not the recognition.
Which brings us to that famous Zen saying. It can sound a bit shocking at first. If you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him.
Right. Definitely not literal violence.
So what's the real point the source wants us to grasp there?
It's a warning, a profound one. Don't mistake the messenger or the finger pointing at the moon for the actual thing, the moon itself.
Ah, okay.
The moment someone claims to be the Buddha or starts selling enlightenment, that's probably not it, because the real deal, the source insists, never announces himself. The truth is in the quiet being, not the loud proclaiming.
This really makes you think about our current culture, doesn't it?
Mm.
The author argues we've kind of built a whole culture around brandishing, spiritually, politically, morally.
Yeah, it's a pretty sharp critique. People treating their awakening, whatever that means to them, like it's a press badge they can flash, turning personal insight into, influence. The author notes how influencers used to sell, like, protein shakes.
Right.
But now they're selling righteousness. And loudly. Very loudly.
There's that one observation in the source that just cuts right through all of that. Everyone wants to be the vanguard. No one wants to do the dishes.
Oof. Yeah. That one lands hard, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
What does that signify about how we approach doing good today?
It means, essentially, that we've started swapping out doing good for being seen doing good.
The performance of it all.
Exactly. We mistake talking about issues for actually acting on them. We might outsource our compassion, like the example given, publicly supporting undocumented folks because, hey, they clean our houses cheap.
Right.
But then maybe doing zero about the systems that keep them vulnerable. Or, treating donations to justice causes like it's just another monthly subscription. Click, done, virtue signaled.
Meanwhile, the actual quiet work.
Yeah, the real work, the mop, the prayer, staying up late with someone who's struggling, that simple unseen kindness, that stuff often gets ignored. It gets passed over for the next viral tweet or the big public statement.
I get the critique. But just to play devil's advocate for a second. In a world where visibility does sometimes equal influence or funding, is there a risk this invisible approach might, limit impact or stop good work from scaling up? Is visible advocacy ever okay?
That's a really important point, and the source doesn't seem to be saying never speak up or advocate.
Okay.
The distinction seems to be about the motivation and the method. Is it about genuine, selfless service? Or is it about building your own brand, getting validation?
So the why matters more than the what, in a way.
Kind of. It's about the doing being primary, not the performing. The author really drives this home, saying something like, the Buddha is probably folding laundry right now in a halfway house and you'd never know.
Because
if you really carry that Buddha nature, you don't draw it unless you absolutely have to. And even then, you don't call it a miracle or post about it.
you just call it.
Showing up, doing the work. That's it. No applause needed.
Okay, that clarifies the difference. So how do we really internalize this idea of invisible grace? The author gives us these powerful little principles, almost like modern co-wins.
Exactly, like revisiting. If you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him. The point is that true Buddha nature is basically allergic to branding.
Allergic to branding? I like that.
Yeah. The moment someone claims it, sells it, puts enlightened in their bio, it stops being enlightenment. Because enlightenment is about selflessness, right? And branding is all about the self, about getting noticed. They cancel each other out.
Makes sense. What else?
Then there's cut wood, carry water. You know the saying. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment,
chop wood, carry water.
Right. Your job is still the dishes, basically. Realize people don't suddenly get promoted out of service. They actually go deeper into it.
And the key difference, they don't complain about it. They just do what needs doing. Quietly.
Okay, and this loops back to the concealed carry idea. Perfectly. The concealed carry of grace. Just like the author promised the police chief they wouldn't brandish the gun, the same applies spiritually. It's not just humility. It's that real strength doesn't need to advertise.
It stays holstered.
Exactly. It stays holstered because it's confident in itself. So if you see someone waving their Buddha credentials around, the author calls it cosplay.
Cosplay, okay.
Another one. Miracles should be invisible. In Taoist and Buddhist thought, showing off supernatural powers is apparently just bad form.
Really?
Yeah. The source has this great line, levitate if you must, but make it look like sitting. Cross the lake, but do it while feeding the ducks.
So the miracle is in the discretion, not the spectacle.
Precisely. The real impact is hidden, subtle.
And the idea that there are Buddhas everywhere.
Yes. Re-emphasizing those examples. Mrs. Sakai, the janitor at 2 a.m., the hospice nurse.
Yeah.
That person who didn't take credit, the woman who just listened instead of interrupting.
None of them had podcasts.
Yeah. Right. But the author says all of them carried Buddha nature like a folded note in a back pocket. Unseen, but present.
What about the laughing Buddha? The fat, happy one.
Oh, yeah. The source reminds us that's not the Buddha Gautama Siddhartha. That's Buddhai, the fat, giggling one you see in diners and nail salons.
And why is he laughing?
He's laughing with us, apparently, because the big cosmic joke is, We keep searching for transcendence in robes and retreats.
When it's been coming from the lunch lady all along.
Exactly. It's hidden in plain sight, in the ordinary.
That's fantastic. And the final koan, it feels very now.
It does. It's a question and answer. Q, what is the sound of one influencer not posting?
And the answer.
Enlightenment.
Wow. Just
Like
silence,
that.
peace.
A moan of unbroadcast presence. And one last twist for today.
Yeah.
Cut wood, carry content.
Carry content.
Yeah, a modern spin. If you want to be holy, the advice is start by making someone's life easier, then do it again.
Simple enough. But the kicker is,
The instruction, don't talk about it, don't tweet about it, don't form a nonprofit around it, don't do a collab. Just help. Then help again. Then disappear. Vanish into the background.
these principles really do capture it, don't they? That profound power in quiet action. Because ultimately, the message is clear. Real Buddhas don't brandish.
They serve,
They smile.
then they just melt back into the crowd, leaving the impact, not their name.
What an incredible concept to unpack. So the main takeaway here for you listening is really about the power, the sheer authenticity you can find in those quiet, often totally invisible acts of service. Real humility.
Yeah, it's such a strong counterpoint to all the noise, the performative stuff we see so much of today. It urges us to look past the shouting and see the quiet strength in just doing.
This deep dive really gives you a shortcut, I think, to understanding something profound you might not encounter elsewhere, full of these surprising connections.
It really does. It reinforces that idea that maybe enlightenment or just genuine goodness looks like quietly showing up, serving where you can, and letting the impact be its own reward, without needing the credit or the spotlight.
The real measure isn't what you say you are, but what you do when nobody's looking.
Exactly. When no one even knows your name.
So we want to leave you with something to mull over this week. A provocative thought, maybe. What simple, maybe even tiny, unheralded act of service or kindness could be your form of spiritual concealed carry? How might focusing on that silent contribution rather than the public announcement actually deepen your own sense of purpose? Maybe even make you more effective? Something to think about.